Hey, what's up gremlins? Cryptid here, your humble internet drawer, and today I am coming back with yet another speed draw of a character that I seriously don't give enough love, considering the fact that I absolutely adore him. This is Casey Fuller, and if you're familiar with my animations, you might recognize him from my It's Just a Cigarette animation. He is the adoptive father of Felix, my little elf boy person girl, depending on what part of the timeline you're talking about. I was going through my archive of drawings and I realized that I have drawn him digitally about 3 times. And that's not enough. I did 1 in 2020, 2 in 2021. I'll pop them up on screen just so you have a visual reference. But man, this dude is kind of one of my favorite side characters, even though he doesn't appear for that long in the story. He's just one of my favorite character build types to draw. I'm also in kind of an incoherent mood this morning. It must be the fact that it's April 1st. Speaking of which, happy April Fools to everybody in my Australian audience. And if you're in America, happy April Fool's Eve. I don't have a joke to play on you today because I'm not that well prepared. But hey, maybe the joke is that you're spending your morning watching my videos. But humor, I'm good at that. Okay. Speaking of videos, if you like speed draws and animations and my content in general, why not leave a like and subscribe? It would seriously mean the world to me. You can also follow me on all my socials in the description below. And with that, let's just continue on into the video. I don't have that much important stuff to talk about today. I know, I sort of did all of my housekeeping information dump in my last video, and that was a lot. So today we're just going to be doing some fun world building lore information on this character and his relationship to Felix. So let me just get into some of the backstory of how Casey and Felix actually met. So let me set the scene. It is a dark and rainy night. Casey has just finished packing up his bakery for the day and he's gone outside to turn off his porch lamp, and as he's done so, he notices a small elven boy huddled outside underneath his canopy taking refuge from the rain, and he looks down at him and he sort of goes, "Hey, you can't stay here, you have to go. You can't just be sitting outside my bakery." And Felix just sort of stares at him and he's like, "Do you have parents? Do you have somewhere you can go?" And Felix just sort of shakes his head. He's like, "No, I don't have anywhere I can go." And Casey, despite being generally quite a gruff and scruffy and tough love man, his kinder instincts kick in and he's just like, "Oh, okay." He welcomes him inside and he's like, "Come on, I'm gonna get you some food. I'm gonna get you some dry clothes because you're sogging wet and you can't stay outside like this, so come in." Felix is 6 at the time and Casey is 24, and Casey's bakery is fairly successful at this point in time. It's not a booming business, but it caters to the locals around the area. Now, Casey brings him inside and he sits him down by the fire and he goes away to prepare some food for him and grabs some, a towel and one of his big sweaters to put over Felix to get him out of his wet, cold clothes. He starts talking to Felix, who he's surprised is actually fluent in German, which is the local language, despite the fact that Felix is obviously from Virgo. And Casey starts talking to him and is like, "Where did you come from? Why are you huddled outside my bakery at midnight?" And Felix explains to him that that morning he had been in Virgo when the war that had been advancing through the Elven Midlands finally arrived in his home village. So his mother had been a dock worker and she'd heard through the grapevine that the troops were advancing, and she'd sort of mentally prepared for this moment but thought that perhaps they would be fought off. It didn't happen, so she sort of panicked and she took Felix and started sending him off towards the train station. And she was like, "You need to go. I need to get you away from here. Seek refuge somewhere else." She goes with him part of the way through the forest, which at that point is the safest way to the train station because the main roads are filled with troops and tanks and fighting. And part of the way through, planes start flying over and bombs start dropping. And Felix's mother is badly injured. She injures her leg and she sort of goes, "I can't keep going. You need to go. You need to get to the train station. I trust that you know where it is. I love you very much. Goodbye." Pretty much. Felix just continues on the path that his mother set him on and continues through the forest. Now, as Casey is talking to Felix about this, he's sort of come to the realization that this kid has no home, has no family, has nowhere to go, and that he's badly injured. He notices that his legs are covered in bandages, and he's like, "What happened?" So the bombs that began to be dropped on the forest were napalm. Felix got caught in some of the explosion. It wasn't terrible, his upper body was more or less unscathed, save for a few sparse burns, but the lower half of his body suffered terrible burns. It got stuck to him and the only reason he was saved is because he was picked up by a guardian brigade, which is essentially a troop of guardians who are angels. If you're familiar with my characters, you'll know that Lucy is a guardian, and the guardian brigade is essentially like a Red Cross. It's a traveling humanitarian effort that they act as nurses, they act as firefighters, that sort of thing. And they found him, and they just immediately started taking care of him and dressing his wounds and that sort of thing. Felix was not conscious for most of it, so he doesn't remember pretty much anything that happened. He just knows that he wound up on a train, wound up in Gemini, and once he got there, he just started stumbling through the city, essentially, because he didn't have any direction for where to go. And eventually it started to rain, he got cold, his legs started to give out, and they actually kept going for a lot longer than you would expect for this poor little injured 6-year-old. And he plopped down in front of Casey's bakery, which was evidently a very fortunate place for him to find himself. And so Casey's listening to all this, and he's like, oh my goodness, I have a tiny little 6-year-old Virgin refugee in my house. And despite the fact that he has no parenting experience or fatherly experience of any kind, he's just like, right, you're my responsibility for now. I'm gonna give you a place to stay. You can stay here and we're gonna figure out what to do. I can take you to, I can help you find asylum somewhere in Gemini. And so Felix stays the night, and it just sort of blossoms from there. He ends up staying a lot longer, obviously, than either of them planned. And Felix is actually quite adept at baking and cooking, thanks to his mother, especially for his age. And Casey was like, oh, this could be an apprentice. And that's essentially what he takes him on as, his apprentice son figure. Casey is definitely more of like a slightly interesting uncle than a father, but he does his best. And he's genuinely very loving, very kind, even though he can be terse, gruff, a little bit intimidating, because he's very tall, built like a fridge. Casey's design, actually, if any of you are familiar with the Phoenix Wright series, Detective Gumshoe was absolutely an inspiration for the way that Casey's build is, just like the sort of giant, built like a fridge, dad bod with fantastic tits, that sort of vibe. He's got like these big baking arms and big hands, and he's quite intimidating, but a big softie. Speaking of Casey's hands, actually, you might notice at this point that there's sort of a pink nail polish residue around his fingers. It's like all chipped and it doesn't look like, nail polish. There's actually a story behind that, but the thing about it is, I've incorporated this into the narrative, but it's not my idea. I know that I've taken this from somewhere. I'm not sure how much of the idea, and I'm not sure what platform it was on. I'm not sure whether it was like a meme or a Tumblr post or a tweet or something, but I've taken this from somewhere, and if anybody knows where this is from, please tell me, because I need to know how much of it I've actually stolen, because I don't remember how much of it is my idea at this point. But essentially, Felix, when he was like younger and he was starting to work in the kitchen and work handling food, Casey just goes, all right, you're gonna need to clip your nails to work in the kitchen because they're long. Like, Felix likes to keep his nails long. And Felix is sort of very apprehensive. He's like, no, I don't want to do that. No, leave my nails alone. And Casey sarcastically replies, all right, well, we're gonna cut your nails or I'm gonna paint them pink. And Felix just immediately turns around and he's like, oh, can I really? And Casey's just like, that's not the response that I expected. So, Casey, being the wonderful supportive father that he is, takes Felix to Thea, who is Elijah's mum and is essentially Felix's adoptive aunt. Casey knows Thea, he knows the Becker family because he went to university at the same time that Thea was doing her PhD. He takes Felix there and he's like, hey, could you give this kid a manicure? And so they make a compromise, cut and paint his nails pink. So Casey, in solidarity and also, egged on by Thea and Felix, also gets his nails painted pink. And so he doesn't take care of them. They just wind up chipped and he doesn't have any nail supplies at all. He doesn't have nail polish remover, certainly. So they just kind of wind up like that for way too long until Thea basically goes, she sees them and she's like, you still have that on. No, come here, and she takes it off for him. So that's why he has pink residue around his nails. Now, something that happens with Casey and the bakery as Felix gets older is that the bakery starts to not do well. And it's obviously in part due to the recession, due to the war, due to, all these factors, but they just start losing money and Casey winds up pinching pennies, scrounging to get by. Felix is very empathetic. He sees this and he automatically feels responsible because he's like, he was never meant to be Casey's responsibility. Casey took him on willingly, and Casey is also spending money on him, obviously, to keep Felix alive. So Felix does work in the bakery. He gets on his bicycle early in the morning and does runs of the suburb to deliver bread to anybody that's ordered it who doesn't come into the bakery. He sort of goes, Casey, I can leave. I can live with Elijah, who's just come back from the Royal Army of Gemini base because he's been injured. You know, I can go live with him so that you don't have to pay my living expenses. Because Elijah is not incredibly well off, but he's definitely doing better than Casey. And Elijah is like Felix's brother. He calls him his brother. They call each other brothers. They're essentially family. And Casey's just like, whoa, no, you're my son. I'm not pawning you off to somebody else. And you're also a big help to the bakery, and I'd be losing money either way. And so Felix is like, no, I'll still come in. I'll wake up at 4 a.m. I'll come over and I'll do my bread runs, but you just won't have to look after me. And Casey begrudgingly agrees because it's sort of the only thing that he can do to make his financial situation better. And that's how Felix winds up living with Elijah and eventually goes with him when they leave Gemini to escape the war. Casey, meanwhile, at a certain point when Felix is living with Elijah, there is an air raid, sirens go off, they go into the basement, and when they come back out, they're listening to the radio as they would. And they hear places that have been targeted, they hear the names of the streets, and they hear the street that Casey's bakery is on. So they hop onto Elijah's motorbike and they book it to where Casey's bakery is, or was, because when they arrive there, it's just rubble. Felix, who doesn't know where Casey was at the time that the bomb dropped, distraught, he runs into the wreckage and is caught by Casey, who just arrived at the same time. Neither of them were home, which is good. But now Casey doesn't have anywhere to live. Casey comes and stays with Elijah and Felix for a couple of nights before telling Elijah, hey, I'm gonna go back to Aries, which is where he's from. I'm gonna go back to see my parents because I don't have anywhere to live. I don't have any money. I don't have anything to do here. I need you to take care of your brother, my son. I will be back. I will come see Felix, but I can't take care of him anymore. You know, Elijah's like, yeah, of course I'll take care of him. And Casey leaves. And that is where I'll leave that story for the time being. So there you go. That's a large part of the story of Casey and Felix. Casey is genuinely one of my favorite characters to draw. He's just so big and so gruff and just, oh, he's great. Like, I can draw these big massive hands, these big massive arms, big pecs. It's so fun. Just for a complete tonal shift. I love drawing him. But we have come to the end of the speed draw, actually, and the end of another video. So if you liked it, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, leave a comment telling me what you thought of the speed draw, and follow me on all my social media. I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Twitter, which is new. And I highly recommend that you go follow me there because that's where you'll see all my work in progresses and you can find out when I'm drawing something that'll be in a future video because I actually did post some earlier sketches of this speed draw a couple of days ago. So yeah, it might be something fun to go check out. Alrighty, that's the end of this video. I love you all and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.